We've been talking about using the burn tool destructively. We're going to talk about non-destructive edits as well. Destructively means I'm going in to the image and on the actual pixels themselves, right in the image, I'm doing burning and dodging. Those are then affecting this particular image layer, and they're sort of, literally burned into it, I guess, and there's no going back from that. So it is more flexible to do this with non-destructive edits in mind. And the way to do that, we talked a little bit about in a previous video, but just to re-emphasize that, making a new fill layer, making it 50% gray, clicking OK, and then changing that layer's blend mode to overlay or soft light. And what that does is it makes essentially the 50% gray pixels invisible, and then anything that you paint with the dodge or burn tool into this gray, anything that you make lighter than the 50% gray and anything that you make darker than the 50% gray will affect the image. So let's start with dodge tool. Now again, you do have to rasterize this fill layer, then you can go in with dodge tool. And so now you can see I'm going around, and it's subtle, but you can see over in that layer I'm doing some lightening here, and I have this at a pretty high exposure, so it's quite dramatic. I would want to do it with a softer exposure typically to be more subtle, but just so you can see it in the video. And then go into the shadows, and let's crank up this exposure too so it's a bit more obvious what's happening. Going to paint with, whoops, I actually have to change over to burn tool, otherwise it won't do much. We'll up the exposure on that burn tool, and then you can see even with a fairly low exposure it's already going, it's already making shadow shapes dark, and you can see that over here. But this does remain completely non-destructive in that you can just turn it on and off, get rid of it. You can reduce the opacity of it for more subtle sort of blending, and of course it does have the ability to put a mask on it, which then allows you to go in and hide parts that were a little bit overdone, or whatever you need to do. So that's the best way to go about it. Again, if you have an image, and let's go back to, we are on burn tool since that's the one we're talking about, something that has just areas that you want to darken up, you can do it directly into the image itself, but that's going to be potentially somewhat riskier because there's no going back from that. Or make that adjustable fill layer. So solid color, 50% gray. It doesn't have to be perfect, but somewhere in the middle range. Change it to overlay or soft light, then get into it. And you could use paintbrush and paint darker or lighter pixels on it, but burn tool and dodge tool essentially are going to do the same thing at this point. Remember to rasterize it, and then you are good to go from there, and it accomplishes the same thing as those destructive edits, but with certainly more flexibility.